Hello friends, welcome back to my channel. Welcome if you are new. Today we're doing another sit down video and I can't believe I'm doing 2 in a row. What is wrong with me? I'm doing the rFantasy bingo. So I have followed other people doing this for the past couple of years and I've never set myself a TBR, but I watched Cassie from Covers with Cassidy and Mel from Eleanor Reads. Tag them down below. You'll know who they are, but just in case you don't, I'll leave them tagged. And the prompts this year, I feel like I have more chance of fulfilling them this year just because of like the collection that I've got on the books that I'm interested in, and I thought, why not give it a go? So rFantasy bingo is a readathon. There's a year-long readathon that runs from April to the end of March every year, but it's run on Reddit. I don't go on Reddit. I can't. It's just a spider web of absolute chaos. I just can't get my head around it. But this readathon is like, it sounds really good. And there are some rules around it. You can use manga and graphic novels for the prompts, but they do sort of ask you to limit that. They don't give you a limit, but they just sort of ask you to like not use it for like loads of prompts, because the whole point is to sort of like broaden your reading. So yeah, you can reread, but you can only use one prompt as a reread. You can't use the same author for multiple books unless the author that you choose is one of the authors of the short story collection, which is one of the prompts. So every book has to be from a different author. And I really thought that this would be difficult to do, but I've taken it from my physical TBR. I've also taken it from books that I would like to read and get that are going to be out between now and next year, and this is just sort of like an rFantasy MBR. This is what I have so far, and there is one prompt that I haven't actually filled at all because I'm waiting to see what comes up for that. There is some that I could potentially use, but I'll get to that when we get to it. So yeah, we're just going to dive straight into the prompts and what books I've chosen for it. You could just fulfill the normal prompts and you can choose to get a bingo, or you could choose to get a blackout. I'm going to try and do the full blackout. You can do it in normal mode, like I said, or you can do it in hard mode. Hard mode is what it says on the tin. It just makes the prompt a little bit harder to fulfill. Hero mode is to review every book that you read, which I'm going to do more individual reviews on some of these books, generally in wrap-ups and in vlogs that I review the books as I go anyway, so it'll be easy for me to fulfill hero mode. We're going to start off with the first one, obviously. So the first one is a book in a series, but the series has to be more than 3 books long. There are various ones I could read for this. I don't have any of these physically, so I could use The Grace of Kings because that is a book I need to read this month anyway, and it's a series that me and Chels are reading for. It's all about fantasy. It's 4 books long, so I could use that. There is also one that Mel mentioned that really did grab my interest. Do I need to add more physical books or more books in general to my TBR? No, but am I going to? Possibly, yes. So this is Spark, part of the Kindred Curse saga, and I believe there's 4 or 5 books in this series, I think. Maybe more. It's more than 3 anyway. But the series starts with the book Spark, and I can't remember the author because I didn't write it down because I'm an idiot. But this also does intrigue me. I could also use the Along the Razor's Edge by Rob J. Hayes. There's a 5-book series as part of the, I call it the Esker series, but it's not, it's the War Eternals, I think the series is called. That is a book that I need to read this year anyway for a project that I'm doing, so I could also use that. There are options, which I'm glad for, because although I do like to set myself books to read each month and like have a goal, I do also like to mood read between books I'm interested in, so it gives me options. The next one is an alliterative title, and the hard mode for this has 3 or more words in the title that have the same. I don't have anything that's fantasy that could work for this. I went online and just had a look at some books on Scribd, or now Everand, whatever you want to call it, and one that came up was Sister of Swords and Shadows. I will leave the cover here if Eddie and Lisa can be asked to do so. It feels like, I don't know if I'm going to like the book, but it's available on Scribd, Everand, whatever you want to call it, and it's a relatively short read, so I could tick that off quite quickly. If you do have any recommendations for the hard mode on this, then please can you let me know. I am trying to go for hard mode on all the prompts where possible, so if you have any recs, just leave them down below. I might have something in my shelves, but from when I went and had like a quick peruse before I did this TBR, I couldn't find anything. Next we have Under the Surface, and this is what I'm using as my reread, I think. I'm hoping so, because I don't think I put anyone else on here. But yeah, I'm going to be using Flames and Mirror for this by Clay Harmon. This was an arc that was kindly sent to me by Clay, and I do want to get the hardback version of this. Book 2 is out later on this year, and I read this as soon as it came out, so it's been a while. I will need to reread this before going to Book 2, but most of this, if not all of it, if I remember rightly, is underground. And it's like an underground city world. It's great. It's very unique, and I would highly recommend that you read it. I give it 5 stars, and I can't wait to get back into it. The next one is Criminals, and the hard mode for this is, oh sorry, the hard mode for that one, the hard mode for Under the Surface was more than 50% of the book has to be underground. Next one is Criminals, and the hard mode for this features a heist. So I could choose many things for this. I don't know where my other book is for this, but I could use A Tempest of Tea. I do have that somewhere in my book stacks, but The Darkness Before Them by Matthew Ward is one that I do also want to read, so I could choose that. I don't physically own that one, and I don't own that in any capacity. I do own Tempest of Tea, so depending on finances, I might just go for the easier option, because I do also want to read Tempest of Tea, and I will also knock a book off my physical TBR. So there's that, because I've just added to it by purchasing the book. The next one is Dreams, and the hard mode for this is not magical dreams or nightmares. It's like just mundane sort of dreams, and I didn't have one for this, and you generally don't know. Unless it specifies in the back that someone has dreams, you don't know until you read it. But I have been told that City of Nightmares by Rebecca Schaeffer has dreams in them, and they are just like mundane dreams. So we'll see if I like that. We'll go with that for now. And if you do have any recommendations for any fantasy books that have dreams in them that are like not magical, and just leave them down in the comments, because I only have one option for that. And the next one is entitled Animals, and the hard mode is a fantasy or sci-fi creature, and for this I chose Dragon Rider by Taran Matharu. This is one I've pre-ordered from Waterstones, and it comes out, I want to say, end of April, beginning of May. Next one is Bards, and the hard mode is that the character is explicitly called a bard. This one I struggled with. I took some of the recommendations, some of the books from other people's TBRs, but I was going to read Till Death Do Us Bard, because I know that Becca and Smash have recently read that and loved that. However, A River Enchanted by Rebecca Ross has been on my radar for ages, and I've confirmed with someone who's read it that that can be used, so I'm really excited. So the next one is Prologues and Epilogues, and the hard mode is that it must have both, and for this I've chosen House of Bane and Blood by Alexis L. Menard. I have had this on my radar for ages, so I decided to buy it and put it on my TBR, so it's there now. The next one is Self Pub, and the hard mode is fewer than 100 Goodreads ratings. So the one that I was potentially going to use for this, which is Exile by AJ Calvin, this we are doing a book tour for Indie Booktours, and this currently only has 31 ratings on Goodreads, so I could use this. I'm gonna pencil this in as my pick for that, to get it fulfilled, but I don't see why I shouldn't use this. I mean, if I'm trying to make it easier on myself, I would just use this. But I do also take part and read books for Spiff Bomb. Not an official judge, but I do read them when they're available. So I could use any of those that have less than 100 ratings. But for ease, because I do already have a lot of books, I might just choose this one. And the next one is a fantasy romance. The hard mode is the main character has to be part of the LGBTQIA plus community. For this one we have Fairbound by Sarah Elarife. This is queer and it has fae in it. Fantasy. I don't really know much about it, but I've heard it's fantasy and queer, so. Next up we have Dark Academia, and the hard mode is the school is mundane. Now I'm basing this on the fact that the learning facility was mundane in the first book, and I don't know, and I'm just assuming we're in that setting in the second book. If we're not, then I have to reassess everything. But I've just Hellbent by Lee Bardugo. We'll find out whether she's still at university in this, and whether it's, yeah, whether it fits the prompt. But if it doesn't, then I can just try and find something off someone else's TBR. There are a few of these videos going around, so I can pick off someone else's. Or if you have any recommendations of books that have a mundane school in them, then please let me know. The next up is a multi-POV. So there's one book that, well, both of these books have been on my TBR for a while. One would get me to finish a series, and the other would be a brand new purchase, and I don't know if it's a standalone or start a new series, but either way it would mean a new purchase. So this is Wrath by John Gwynne. I still haven't finished this series because it scares me to finish the series. I don't want to. I've still got the bloody bookmarking from when I started it. We've been avoiding it, so, you know, the good Lisa should have used that. But whether I do, it's another question. But that's that option. And the hard mode for that is that it has at least 5 POVs. And from what I remember, there were quite a few POVs in Wrath. Again, if it doesn't fulfill the prompt, I read a lot of fantasy, so I will eventually come across a book at some point this year that has more than 5 POVs. Okay, moving on to characters with a disability. The hard mode is the main character has a physical or mental disability, and I have been made aware that Godkiller fulfills this prompt. I think it does. If it doesn't, again, I will change it. But I think I was told that this does fulfill that prompt. The next one is published in the 1990s, and the hard mode is published something else within the last 5 years. Now this was really difficult. It's really difficult. But I've seen a few other people's options, and I've gone with Gardens of the Moon by Stephen Erickson. I think that is the start of a new series, but Stephen Erickson in general, I could, if that's not the start of a series, I can pick up any book from him, because I know that he has released something in the last 5 years. But there was also an author on Chels's channel, but that book was seriously chunky, so I'm not sure about that one. But again, any recommendations for any of these, I'm open to everything, so leave them down below. And then we have published in 2024, the hard mode for that is debut novel. I've gone with Five Broken Blades, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. I think this is the debut, and obviously it's published in 2024. Can't get much clearer than that, can you? And I missed that one. That was the one before the disability, sorry. But I skipped it because I'm an idiot. And we're moving on to Orcs, Trolls, Goblins. Am I? There are a few options I have for this one, none of which I've yet settled on. So we're just gonna go through this together. So we've got Grey Bastards, I wanted to read this because I think it was the first Spiffball winner, or it's won one of the Spiffballs, and it's now traditionally published, but they don't have to be indie books, so there's that option. There's also Heart of the Night and Fire by Nisha El Tuli. I saw this on, I think it was Mel's recommendations, and I've looked it up and it sounds very interesting, so I'm curious about that one. But then there is also the Accidental Goblin King Lit RPG series, which I'm very curious about, so there's that one option. But there's also a Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison. The hard mode for this, by the way, is that the main character is one of these, either an orc, troll, or goblin. All of these cover the hard mode one. In Grey Bastards is a half orc, so it still counts. But I haven't ever read a lit RPG before. But that was the one that intrigues me the most, because I think that's also part of a series. Again, it means I'm potentially starting a series if I enjoy it, but Grey Bastards and The Accidental Goblin King are the two that intrigue me the most. And the next one is space opera. I had no idea going into this one. I don't read a lot of sci-fi, so I had to take recommendations for this. But the one that sprung to mind, and I know that I've said before that I'm mad at Tracy Wolf, and I am very much mad at Tracy Wolf for what she's done in the Crave series, whatever you want to call it. But I'm gonna take a punt at this one, and I'm just hoping that she can redeem herself in my eyes. So the hard mode for this one is by an author with a marginalised gender identity. So I've gone for Starbringer by Tracy Wolf. This is like an adult. I think it's kind of smutty as well, spicy. Book that says sci-fi, fantasy sci-fi. I think it's a blend, but I think it could be classed as a space opera. So that's what I'm going with. That's the Starbinder, then I meant Starbringer. Next one, we have an author of colour, and the hard mode for that is a debut published in the last 5 years. So I've chose Beasts of Prey by Ayana Gray, but I do also have Bones to the Wind by Tatiana Obe. I do have that. I've also just realised a lot of the indie fantasy I read are written by men. I can't do a reread. You can only do one reread. I was going to reread Cruel Gods by True Skies, but that is an option. Cruel Gods series. 2 books are currently out, I think. It's on its way. The next one is Survival, and the hard mode is no superviruses or pandemics. So I've gone for Shadow of the Night by Deborah Harkness. This is a book that I already had to read for trying to continue series. And then we have Judge a Book by its cover, no reading the blurb. So I've chosen for this one Return of the Knights by Gregory Contaxis. I read the blurb, but ages ago when I was gifted the book. The thing that drew me to it first, before I read the blurb, before I was gifted the copy, was the cover. So I'm using it. Next we have Set in a Small Town, and the hard mode is Must Be Real World. For this one, I have chosen 16 Souls by Rosie Talbot. I think this is a small town in America, she says. Is it America? No, it's not America, it's Scotland. Small town anyway. I don't know where it is. It says, teams up with Sam Harrow, the new seer in town. It's a town. There we go. Then we have SFF Short Stories. The hard mode for this is a full anthology. I've gone for the Advent of Winter. I have all of them on my Kindle. I am awaiting the physical copy of this because I've backed the Kickstarter and I'm going to read all of them. Is it the wrong time of year? Yes, but I'm not going to necessarily read them all now. I might wait till Christmas to read these. We don't know, but at some point I'll read the full anthology. Next one is Eldritch Creatures, and the hard mode is not related to the Cthulhu mythos. I'm not gonna lie, I don't know what the Cthulhu mythos is, but one book that I have seen on people's lists is Your Blood, My Bones, and what a coinkydink, I've got that on its way to me. So, 2 birds, 1 stone, TBR, bish bash bosh, there we go. Fine, the second to last one is Reference Materials, and the hard mode for this is more than 2. So that could be glossaries, maps, all that jazz. And for this one, I have chosen the Bloodstones, because this has multiple bits of reference materials in them. So I'm excited. I'm reading this currently as well. And the last one was one that I swapped out. You were allowed to, I didn't tell you this, did I? You're allowed to swap out one prompt for any of the previous year's prompts, and there's a link that they said that they take you to that has all the balls from previous years. So I decided to switch the last prompt out, because theirs was to take part in their book club or one of the readathons that they run throughout the year and take part in the discussion. As I said, I'm not a Reddit girly, I'm not going to do that. So I switched it out for a 2023 prompt, which was to read a novella, and the hard mode was not a tor novella. I decided to go for The Last Stand of the Stonefist by Michael R. Miller, and that is a prequel novella set before the Songs of Chaos. There we go. If Editing Lisa can be bothered, she will have put some of the covers up here for the books that I mentioned that I didn't physically hold up. But yeah, I'm really looking forward to this reading year. I've got everything written out in my journal, and I've already started with some of these books. And if I do decide to choose Exile as one of them, I've already ticked off a prompt on her. If you are doing our fantasy bingo, then please let me know, and I'll go out and check your videos if you're doing one, or check out your posts and your TBR. I love seeing other people's TBRs and stuff like this. If you do like me and you want to see more of me, please like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. If you're here and you want to let me know you're here but you don't have anything to say, please leave a black heart, very much appreciated. And until next time, enjoy whatever video you want I'm doing, and I'll see you all very soon.